Chapter 1, Introduction. In this first chapter, Mayer kicks things off by introducing the fascinating concept of the 100-bagger, a term he coined to describe stocks that multiply your investment by 100 times. Imagine buying a stock for $1 and watching it grow to $100, or investing $10,000 and ending up with $1 million. Sounds like a dream, right? Mayer emphasizes that achieving a 100-bagger isn't a matter of luck but more about finding companies that are not only undervalued but also have the potential for extraordinary growth. To put it simply, it's about identifying businesses that have the ability to change the world and grow at an exponential rate. The author draws inspiration from historical examples and points out that 100-baggers are incredibly rare, but when they happen, they can significantly outpace the market. Mayer's goal is to show readers how they can spot such opportunities and, hopefully, snag a 100-bagger of their own. He reassures us that anyone can do this. It's not just for Wall Street experts or those with deep pockets. With patience, the right mindset, and a bit of research, anyone can find these stocks. And, most importantly, Mayer stresses that these opportunities tend to be long-term plays. The secret to success is holding on for the ride, even when things get bumpy. So, buckle up. It's time to learn how to find those life-changing investments. This chapter sets the stage for what's coming next, a deep dive into the strategies, tools, and real-world examples that can help you uncover your very own 100-bagger. Chapter 2, Anybody Can Do This. In this chapter, Mayer sets out to prove that anyone, yes, anyone can find and invest in stocks that multiply your money by 100 times, or even more. He sprinkles in real-life stories of ordinary investors who struck gold with long-term holds, showing that achieving a 100-bagger isn't reserved for Wall Street's elite. These investors weren't the flashy, high-speed traders. Instead, they took a more laid-back, patient approach, focusing on the simple idea of buy and hold for years, sometimes decades. One of the most inspiring stories is about a guy who invested in a company in the 1960s, not because he had inside knowledge or insider tips, but simply because he believed in the business model. And guess what? His investment turned into a 100-bagger over the course of 30 years. Another story highlights the power of staying the course, even through market dips and turbulent times. These investors didn't panic or chase the latest stock trend, they trusted the fundamentals of the companies they invested in, and it paid off in a huge way. Mayer's message here is simple: the road to a 100-bagger isn't about having insider knowledge or being a financial wizard. It's about understanding businesses, being patient, and having the confidence to hold on for the long haul. Anybody can do this, yes, even you. With the right mindset, a little research, and the discipline to ride out market swings, you too could find yourself holding a stock that returns 100 times your original investment. It's all about the long-term game. Chapter 3, The Coffee Can Portfolio. Chapter 3 of 100-baggers is all about a super simple yet powerful investing strategy called the Coffee Can Portfolio. Imagine you're making coffee, but instead of brewing it every morning, you just let it sit in a coffee can. That's the idea: pick your stocks, put them in a can, and forget about them for years. No constant buying, selling, or checking the stock ticker every hour. The magic happens when you allow time to work for you. The chapter explains how this approach is perfect for long-term investors who don't want to stress out over the daily ups and downs of the market. The key is to pick companies that you believe in for the long haul, companies with solid fundamentals, a strong competitive edge, and good management. Once you've chosen your stocks, you simply hold on tight, give them time to grow, and avoid the temptation to make emotional decisions based on short-term market fluctuations. Mayer highlights that many of the greatest 100-baggers were stocks that people bought, held, and forgot about for years. The strategy may sound boring, but it's actually brilliant. In the world of investing, patience truly pays off. In essence, the Coffee Can Portfolio isn't about constantly trying to outsmart the market or chase the next big thing. It's about picking a few great companies, letting them grow, and just waiting for the magic of compound growth to do its thing. So, grab your coffee can, put in your best picks, and relax. It's time to let time work for you. Chapter 4, Studies on Multi-Baggers. Mayer takes us on an exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of multi-baggers, stocks that don't just double or triple, but instead go on to achieve returns of 10x, 20x, or even 100x. Mayer doesn't just throw random examples at us. Oh no, he brings hard data, examining several historical multi-bagger stocks, exploring their paths, their growth stories, and the factors that made them stand out. The chapter gives us a crash course on what to look for in a stock if you're hoping it'll turn into a multi-bagger. It's like the secret recipe of a stock that's not only a steady grower but a true superstar. The key takeaway: look for companies that have huge potential for growth, a strong and sustainable competitive advantage, and a management team that's both passionate and smart. What's even more interesting is how Mayer emphasizes that the best multi-bagger stocks often come from industries that aren't flashy or trendy when you first look at them. It's about finding the diamonds in the rough, and sometimes, it's about patience. These companies don't hit it big overnight. They evolve, adapt, and manage to expand in ways that no one saw coming. Mayer also includes a few fun real-world examples of companies that skyrocketed. Think about companies like Berkshire Hathaway and even small-cap stocks that grew into huge market leaders. So, this chapter is all about identifying opportunities before they hit the mainstream. Get ready to open your eyes to the possibilities of finding stocks that could really make your portfolio shine. Chapter 5, The 100 Baggers of the Last 50 Years. Christopher Mayer takes us on a fascinating journey through 50 years of history to uncover some of the most jaw-dropping 100-bagger stocks. These are the real-world success stories where investors saw their money grow by 100 times, yes, you read that right, 100 times. The chapter highlights a whopping 365 different stocks that achieved this feat over the past half-century. Mayer doesn't just name-drop a few big names. He dives deep into the company's journeys and the factors that contributed to their explosive growth. We're talking about a range of industries, from tech and healthcare to more obscure sectors that have quietly become powerhouses. What's amazing is how these stocks often flew under the radar for years before hitting the jackpot. But it's not just about listing these winning stocks. Mayer also offers keen insights into why some companies hit the 100x mark. It's all about sustainable growth, a strong competitive edge, and reinvesting profits back into the business. This chapter proves that finding these stocks isn't just about luck, it's about understanding the key elements that drive long-term success. It's a reminder that great opportunities are everywhere, sometimes in plain sight and sometimes hidden behind the curtains of seemingly ordinary businesses. If you can spot the right signals, your investment could one day become a 100-bagger. The chapter is filled with inspirational stories and practical wisdom, making it a must-read for anyone serious about investing. Chapter 6, The Twin Engines of 100 Baggers. Christopher Mayer introduces us to the twin engines that power stocks toward becoming 100 baggers, growing earnings and reinvesting those earnings at high rates of return. It's like having a fast car with two turbochargers. Both engines must be firing at full capacity to accelerate a stock to that magical 100x return. The first engine is growth. Mayer emphasizes that companies that can consistently grow their profits and revenues over time tend to reward investors generously. It's all about finding businesses that are expanding in ways that are sustainable. Whether it's through innovation, new markets, or simply dominating their niche, growth fuels the fire of a 100-bagger. But growth alone isn't enough. This is where the second engine, reinvestment, comes into play. A company that generates strong earnings but simply sits on them is like a car that's stuck in neutral. The key is for companies to reinvest their profits back into the business at high rates of return. This could mean new projects, expanding capacity, or acquiring strategic assets. The more efficiently a company reinvests its profits, the faster its value compounds over time. Mayer explains that when these two engines work together, strong, consistent growth and smart reinvestment, that's when you have the ingredients for a 100-bagger. So, look for companies that don't just grow, but grow smartly, reinvesting their earnings to fuel even more growth. These are the stocks that can go the distance. Chapter 7, Owner-Operators, Skin in the Game. Christopher Mayer dives into the magic of having the right people at the helm of a company. Essentially, the author argues that one of the keys to spotting a potential 100-bagger is to find a business run by an owner-operator who has a significant stake in the company. Why? Because these are the people who truly care about the long-term success of the business, and their financial well-being is tied directly to the company's performance. Owner-operators are those who started the company, or at least have substantial equity in it, and their interests align with the shareholders. They are often willing to make tough, long-term decisions for growth, even if it means sacrificing short-term profits. Unlike managers who might be motivated by salary or bonuses, owner-operators are in it for the big picture. When they succeed massively, just like the investors. Mayer shares numerous examples of businesses where the CEO or founder owned a significant portion of the company and took it from a small operation to a 100-bagger. This personal commitment drives them to think and act differently. Their capital is at risk, just like the shareholders, and that shared interest creates a more symbiotic relationship between the leaders and investors. To sum it up, if you're looking for a stock with the potential to skyrocket, look for a company where the top people aren't just pushing paper, they're putting their own money on the line. That's real skin in the game. And that, according to Mayer, can be the ticket to finding the next big winner. Chapter 8, The Outsiders. Mayer shines the spotlight on a group of unconventional CEOs who have consistently outperformed the market. These outsiders don't follow the typical corporate playbook. Instead, they focus on making smart capital allocation decisions that lead to significant long-term growth. Mayer pulls examples from a few standout CEOs who've built exceptional companies, often by staying off the beaten path. These leaders don't just focus on short-term profits, they are driven by the long-term health of their companies. They take bold steps, like making huge acquisitions or returning capital to shareholders via buybacks, that others might shy away from. In essence, these outsiders are the mavericks who figured out that being cautious and following the crowd doesn't necessarily lead to explosive growth. Mayer particularly highlights CEOs like Tom Murphy, Capital Cities, Henry Singleton, Teledyne, and Bill Anders, General Dynamics, who made savvy decisions that generated massive returns for their investors. What makes them stand out is their ability to deploy capital in ways that would typically be considered risky but ultimately proved incredibly successful. They understood that investing in the right projects, at the right time, and with the right mindset, could make all the difference. What sets these outsiders apart is their willingness to think independently and go against the grain. They understood that true value creation doesn't happen by simply following the trends but by making bold, well-thought-out decisions that others might not even consider. In short, Chapter 8 is about how thinking like an outsider can lead to extraordinary investment success. It's about CEOs who prioritize long-term value, trust their instincts, and focus on deploying capital in the smartest ways possible. Chapter 9, The Growth Mindset. In this chapter, Christopher Mayer dives deep into one of the most crucial elements for a company to transform into a 100-bagger, a growth mindset. He explains that the best-performing companies don't just aim to grow for the sake of it. Instead, they have leaders and teams with a mentality of continuous improvement and an insatiable thirst for innovation. Think of it as the mindset of a learn-it-all versus a know-it-all. The truly successful companies are always open to learning, adapting, and evolving. Mayer highlights that these companies constantly search for new opportunities, often outside their traditional industries, to fuel long-term growth. It's all about being proactive rather than reactive, always positioning themselves for the next big leap. A growth mindset isn't just about adding more products or services. It's about unlocking new markets, enhancing customer experience, and building a culture of innovation. He emphasizes that leaders with this mindset are crucial because they shape the company's trajectory, pushing everyone to think bigger, take risks, and embrace challenges as opportunities. The companies that manage to scale and keep multiplying their value are those that focus on sustainable growth rather than quick wins. They invest in research and development, prioritize innovation, and continuously improve their processes. This mindset of seeing setbacks as learning opportunities rather than failures helps them evolve and thrive, even in competitive markets. In short, to find a 100-bagger, look for businesses that have a growth mindset. They're the ones that are never satisfied with where they are today and are always looking to improve tomorrow. Chapter 10, Valuation and Pricing. Mayer dives into the exciting world of figuring out how much a stock is really worth. While many investors get caught up in the market's daily swings, the key to finding a 100-bagger is understanding the true value of a company, and sometimes that's not as obvious as you might think. Mayer explains that traditional valuation methods, like looking at price-to-earnings, P/E, ratios, aren't always helpful when you're on the hunt for stocks that could return 100 times your initial investment. Why? Because 100-baggers often start out undervalued, and their growth potential isn't always reflected in the numbers right away. So, sticking too strictly to traditional metrics might cause you to miss out on a golden opportunity. Instead, Mayer recommends a more dynamic approach. Focus on the future growth prospects of the company rather than just historical data. Does the company have a clear plan to scale and expand? Are they in an industry that's poised for growth? Valuation isn't just about numbers, it's about envisioning where the company could be in 5, 10, or even 20 years. The chapter wraps up with a fun reminder: you don't always need to buy the cheap stocks on sale. Sometimes, the price tag on a company is a reflection of its potential, and it's worth paying a little more if the long-term growth is solid. The bottom line: think long-term and focus on a company's future value instead of just looking at its price today. Chapter 11, Economic Moats. In this chapter, Mayer takes us on a deep dive into the concept of economic moats, a term made famous by Warren Buffett. Just like a castle surrounded by a moat to keep invaders out, companies with economic moats have built-in advantages that protect them from competition. These advantages make it harder for rivals to steal market share, allowing the company to earn strong, consistent profits over the long haul. Mayer explains that economic moats come in different forms. Some companies have a cost advantage, meaning they can produce goods or services more cheaply than competitors, making it difficult for others to undercut their prices. Think of Walmart's scale or Southwest Airlines' low-cost model. Others rely on network effects, where a product or service becomes more valuable as more people use it. Companies like Facebook or Google thrive in this way. The more users they have, the harder it becomes for new competitors to lure people away. Then we have brand power. Companies with strong brands, like Coca-Cola or Apple, can charge a premium because consumers trust their products. Some moats are more technical, like intellectual property, patents, trademarks, which protect a company's products and ideas. Lastly, high switching costs lock customers in, making it expensive or inconvenient for them to leave. The key takeaway: companies with strong economic moats are the ones that can survive and thrive in the long term, providing investors with the opportunity to find their very own 100-baggers. Chapter 12, Small Companies, Big Potential. Christopher Mayer dives into the exciting world of small companies with huge growth potential. The big idea? Small companies are like seeds. They may start out tiny, but with the right nurturing, they can grow into giants. Mayer argues that while larger companies are often seen as safer investments, small companies have the ability to surprise in big ways. These companies are often in their early stages and could be the next big thing, especially if they have an innovative product, service, or business model. What makes small companies so interesting is their potential for rapid growth. While the larger, well-established firms are already at the top, small companies can increase their earnings at a faster pace, which means their stock prices have much more room to rise. Think about it: if a small company can grow its revenue and profits tenfold, its stock price could also shoot up by 100 times, hence the term 100-bagger. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Investing in small companies can be risky. They might lack the resources of bigger players, and their businesses could falter if they hit a rough patch. But for those willing to take on the challenge, the rewards can be enormous. Mayer points out that patience is key when investing in small companies. It's a waiting game. You have to give them time to grow and avoid selling too early. Small companies don't always show immediate results, but over time, they could offer huge returns. So, the bottom line of this chapter: look for the small companies that have the potential to become big players, and if you can spot them early, you could be looking at one heck of a ride. Chapter 13, The Role of Time and Patience. Chapter 13 really emphasizes the importance of time and patience in investing. Mayer explains that the secret to achieving 100-bagger returns isn't about fast, risky moves, it's about sitting back, holding steady, and letting your investments grow over time. Think of it like planting a tree. You won't see the full growth in a day, but if you give it time, it'll soar sky high. One of the key takeaways is the idea that successful investors must be patient enough to let compounding work its magic. Compounding takes time, and without the ability to stick with an investment for the long haul, you'll miss out on those huge gains. Mayer discusses how some of the most successful 100-baggers took years, sometimes decades, to truly explode in value. The takeaway: don't try to time the market or chase quick profits. It's about buying into companies that have the potential to grow steadily and allowing them the time they need to deliver massive returns. Mayer uses examples from legendary investors like Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, who have always stressed the importance of time in their investment strategy. They didn't jump into the latest trend, they focused on solid companies and let their investments compound over years. So, in short, Chapter 13 is a reminder that patience isn't just a virtue, it's a necessity for achieving life-changing investment returns. Be in it for the long game, and you'll likely reap the rewards. Chapter 14, Case Studies of 100-Baggers. Mayer dives into some fascinating case studies of companies that turned into 100-baggers, meaning they multiplied their stock price by 100 times or more. The stories show how these companies weren't always flashy tech giants or well-known names at first. Some were just humble businesses that grew over time through consistent management, reinvestment, and steady innovation. Mayer highlights how a few simple but powerful principles led to extraordinary returns. For example, some of the 100-baggers had humble beginnings but found ways to dominate a specific niche, carving out a moat, a competitive advantage that protected them from the competition. A fun part of the chapter is when Mayer looks at businesses that might seem unlikely candidates for big returns, but they had something special, a commitment to long-term growth and the ability to reinvest profits wisely. A key takeaway is the importance of patience. These stocks didn't get to 100-bagger status overnight. Instead, it took years, if not decades, of growth, and often, the early investors had to sit tight and trust in the company's vision. Mayer also emphasizes that the magic often happens when businesses can reinvest their profits into expanding their core operations or into new profitable ventures. For example, some companies reinvested heavily in research and development or simply expanded into new markets that fueled their growth. Overall, the chapter reminds us that extraordinary returns can come from surprising places, and with a bit of patience, strategic thinking, and a long-term view, anyone can potentially ride a 100-bagger wave. Chapter 15, The 10 Principles of 100-Baggers. In Chapter 15, Mayer lays out the 10 Principles of 100-Baggers, a guide to identifying stocks that have the potential to multiply your investment by 100 times. Here's a fun breakdown of these principles. The power of compound growth. The first principle is all about compound growth, those companies that grow steadily over time. Just like a snowball rolling down a hill, a small investment in a growing company can turn into a giant pile of returns. The right management. It's not just about a good product, you need great people at the helm. Leaders who think long-term, put skin in the game, and keep innovating are key. High returns on capital. A good 100-bagger consistently earns a high return on capital, which allows it to reinvest and keep growing without needing to raise more capital constantly. Durable competitive advantage. A strong, lasting competitive edge, a moat, keeps competitors at bay and guarantees that the company can continue its growth. The power of reinvestment. Successful companies reinvest their profits smartly, either in growth opportunities or in acquiring businesses that strengthen their market position. The ideal business. Look for companies in industries with potential for massive growth, tech, healthcare, or even industries you might not think of as sexy. The right price. Getting in at the right price is crucial. Even the best companies can be overvalued at certain points, and buying at the right moment makes all the difference. Be a patient investor. The 100-bagger doesn't happen overnight. Mayer emphasizes patience. Good things take time. Nonlinear growth. Many 100-baggers experience periods of slow growth followed by explosive, nonlinear growth. Patience here is key. Focus on the long term. Lastly, think long term. Investing for short-term gains doesn't lead to big wins. Those 100-baggers require patience and vision. To wrap up 100-baggers, Mayer reminds us that achieving monumental returns is less about luck and more about identifying companies with the potential for extraordinary, long-term growth. The journey to finding 100-baggers requires patience, a keen eye for great management, and a deep understanding of the business's competitive edge. While it's not a get-rich-quick scheme, those who follow the principles in this book can build substantial wealth over time. With discipline, research, and a bit of luck, anyone can uncover the next 100-bagger and experience life-changing financial success. Happy investing!